Episode 6 of Hardpoints. We're back. The boys are back in town. They're busy gentlemen. Little bit late on the episode. We apologize for that. But thank you guys for stopping by for episode 6 of Hardpoints. The Atlanta results. Hell of a tournament there, Chris. I'm sure you're stoked about how your team played.
Thank you.
But before we get into everything, guys, make sure you guys follow the Hardpoints podcast, sub to each of our YouTubes, and make sure you guys keep up with all of our content day in, day out. BTB taking over.
I like that.
As we get into
I like
this,
that a lot.
we're going to go through the brackets, how some of the matches played through. Faze looking goddamn good because of Chris. No, they're pretty good individually as well. And just give our opinions on if we're surprised by certain results, some teams not looking so hot, and go from there. So I'm going to throw up the finals sort of placings for you guys and go through that really quickly.
I actually just got a full bracket graphic from the CDL social side.
Oh,
if I threw
perfect.
in a doc, if that helps you.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, right now we just got the final placements up. Obviously, you guys can see right there. Faze in first. Florida, kind of shocking people in the second place right there. Third and fourth for the Rocker and the Huntsmen. Royal Ravens and Paris Legion at 5-6. OpTic Gaming Los Angeles and Toronto Ultra at 7-8. So pretty surprising results out of the couple of the teams, and then some teams sort of falling into the bottom side that we kind of expected. But Faze win. Let's touch on that.
Yeah, I always love to start. So
Go ahead, Clint.
Yeah, take it over, baby.
You know me. I'm always
love to talk.
I'm always chomping at the bit to get started.
I love it.
Yeah, I think we expected them to win. They handled business and won. Community seemed pretty split coming in on what to expect from Faze and what to expect from Huntsmen, with Huntsmen coming off the win. I think there were a lot of people not doubting Faze, but thinking maybe they were overrated. I felt that got boiled down to, we talked so much about how good Faze was online. Chris, you know, you had those crazy streaks and strems. You guys were so good. I think because Dallas kind of flopped, that there was like this feeling that maybe the same thing would apply to Faze. Like,
sure.
oh, Dallas is great online. They stunk at LAN. Maybe the same will happen with Faze. But I don't think any of us were worried about that. So I don't think we were shocked to see them perform that well. I'm not going to cover everything because I know there's a lot of stuff you guys want to touch on too. But I think the one thing that really stood out is, like, we know Celium won MVP, but Simp right now is insane. Like, he has hit that form where every time you see a top 5, top 10 KD at the end of the event, he's going to be the only SMG there, or like maybe one other. And I can't think of a guy that's consistently done that since like Scump in his prime. That is just always, dude. The dude dropped the 1.24 with MP5. Like, he is far and away blowing everyone out of the water. And you can say KD's not everything. I know that's always an argument, but it
helps.
Special,
it
it's
definitely
special
helps.
what he's doing. It's special what he's doing. Simp he's incredible. I think he's the best sub in the game without question right now, and that is impressive considering I thought he almost like peaked last year when he first came on the scene, and he just seems to be getting better and better, man.
Yeah, I guess I'll go next because I imagine Chris wants to sort of finish things off because he's the winner. I mean, for me, I'm pretty happy. I don't know, did that article ever come out, Clint? We had like to fill out a season predictions thing, and we had to it was one of those like preseason, pick the champion of the year, pick your MVP of the year. And I'm happy with my first result because I picked Celium to be the MVP of the season. Chris, I told you this, like, even last year, with Faze, like, just watching him develop was a lot of fun. You could tell on that Faze team, especially in Search and Destroy, he was the guy sort of shot calling. He was the guy figuring things out, right? And it's carried over. I mean, the Faze run beat OpTic. You know, you beat London 3-1. And then, similar to Chicago, you have a bit of a scare on Sunday where you go down 2-0 and you pull off the reverse sweep. And I think that was the tournament for me. There was no doubt in my mind. It was similar to Chicago, you know, in London. There was no doubt in my mind after like just sort of that test, that they were going to win the event. I mean, just from top to bottom, overall great event. I mean, there's just no weaknesses like we talked about. And I think to what you were talking about, Clint, with online performances, like, you can talk about Dallas, and I think you can look at Illy and Shotzi and be like, because they haven't proven themselves, sure, you can go in online and say whatever you want. The fact is, when you look at this Faze team, Simp and Abizi were amazing last year, right? Like, Major Maniac was on Gen G, who was a top 3, top 4 team last year. They just didn't do well at champs. Like, all of these guys, Priest was on 100 Thieves, who we considered the best team all year long. Like, all of these guys have proven themselves on LAN. Like that to me is the difference maker to that Dallas argument. It's like we just know the talent of this team, and they took care of business, man. It was fun to watch.
It
Can I ask
just
a question?
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Well, I just want to ask,
yeah.
like the what was it? You guys only lost one. You mentioned how strong they are and everything. It was what, one Dom, one Search, one Hardpoint, right? It's one of each.
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
Here's what
We
it was?
lost
Okay.
the Dom to London, the Hardpoint and Search to Minnesota.
That's
and
it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. TeeP, go ahead. I just want to make sure I had that right.
Yeah, no, that's fine. The one thing that I want to bring up is it's an eye test sort of thing. When you watch Faze play, and it's not just one or two people. I feel like it's the whole team. They move around the map and they make you work so much harder for each and every gunfight on the map. And when you're doing that throughout the course of a respawn map, over the course of a series, over the course of a tournament, like it's just eventually going to favor you. Obviously, this team has mastered mechanics way faster. I don't want to say mastered. Has been better at mechanics than every other team from what I've watched, and multiple players just see it. You can obviously see this skill gap, at least from my POV. Like other SMGs aren't moving like this team. They aren't as fluid on the map. It looks clunky, and you can see it on the minimap just when you're watching the games. And if the fact that you can have your slower player like Major Maniac not have to do super crazy things. Obviously, Celium picked up a lot of that slack, but like there is times where if Major Maniac's going to be your quote unquote like least impactful player, you're going to be in a really good spot. No weaknesses. And when I watch other teams play, they look like a mess at times, and they don't have the individual potential to have people take over. So like I just give props to the players individually, because obviously teamwork's super important. Obviously stats are super important. But when you just watch their individual POVs, they look ahead. And I think they're going to be ahead for at least the next month or two, unless people can really start to figure that stuff out. Like they just look more cracked. I hate to use that word all the time, but it's the best way to describe them. They're moving differently. They're taking gunfights consistently different from other people that I watch, and it's paying off. Chris, you can sort of go into it now. I'm sure you're happy with how the teams performed, but there was some weakness, right? So
yeah, no, there was definitely weakness. Like I would like to say like we're playing ahead of the game right now, and I mean to touch on the points that you guys all said, like yeah, I think we're playing great. You know, I'm happy with what we're doing. Like I don't want to sit here and like brag about my own team. You know, like they're doing great.
No, brag about it. Go ahead, you won.
But
can a little bit, yeah.
But at the same time, I know like yeah, they're just a good group of people. They love playing. Like you know what I'm saying. Like they wanted to get right back in the scrims, and they're just motivated to play. Like I think the weird thing, what Joe kind of said, the only thing I never understood, and I never really touched on it, and none of us did because like it never did. We just kind of wanted to show up and win to prove that we can. But like the whole online thing never made sense to me, just because you have like all the players on the team were never really bad on LAN. I don't know where that really ever came out of. Like I don't know. Like you had
people
all
like
the players
to cop out, dude. It's a
yeah,
cop
like
out.
I don't know, because even the online thing, I'm a big believer that online plays the same as LAN. For example, like even though people keep saying that Dallas is bad on LAN, they got second place. They like you know what I'm saying? Like they didn't get eighth. Like like obviously they were ahead. Dallas was probably a little bit ahead, and Clay even admitted this on Twitter. I think he said they were ahead in scrims. I think they had the game early, and like they played well, and they did their thing, and then people started to catch up, and like they weren't as dominant as in scrims as they were, and then like I think that's where you saw the fall off. But they're still a great team. Like people say they're bad. I feel like that's just crazy, you know. And like the same thing with us. Like I don't know. I feel like all our players, including Celium, because to give him a little gas here, I think Celium last year was one of the best players in that game, and I just don't think people wanted to recognize that because Faze never won. Yeah. And I don't even think they saw finals. But like just in general, if you watch Celium play my 100 Thieves team last year, when we reverse swept them, that fourth map, Celium, I think, dropped like 55 kills and they lost. And it will never be talked about again because they lost, but he was making plays. Like he's always been very good on LAN, and I'm glad he finally won his first like championship or whatever you want to call it, just because he's just been so good. So I was just super proud of how they are. Obviously, we showed some weaknesses and we made mistakes. Other teams are still really good. Like I think Minnesota played well, but we'll touch on that a little bit more later. But yeah, just super happy with how the guys are doing and how motivated they're going to keep being, hopefully.
How do you, because I think we all agree it's too early to talk dynasty stuff yet, but the team is very good and you have a young core, like the youngest core in the league. To me, it feels the only thing that will lead to failure for this team will come from internally, whether it's egos getting in the way or contract stuff, someone's making more. How do you make sure that stuff does not happen?
I mean, personally, the way I would like to do it is I really want to my whole thing when I talked to Paul, who is like the owner, like the head honcho of the group, and I talked to him, and I really wanted to build like a family where it's not like, yeah, who's making more or what they're, what I'm saying, like what they're doing, or this guy wants to be better than this guy. I want to like create the family style of where everyone's happy for each other and we win and lose like together. We're not going to lose and have one of our players go to a group of other players and say, well, this guy sucks on land, he's choked. You know how it goes. Like I really wanted to build a team that just is genuinely great people outside of game, get along. And when those times do come, like obviously there's going to be contract stuff. There's going to be stuff where people want a little bit more here and there, but keep it to the point where you have to remember that like getting on and being happy with your squad and feeling like you're a part of the family scrimming every day is like what you want too. You don't want to get on and be miserable or not happy teaming with X, Y, or Z. Like, you know what I'm saying? You want to get along with your teammates too. I know people always say like, make your, what's the saying? It's like, don't be friends with your teammates, make your teammates friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. But at the same time, like you do want to get on every day and be happy, right? So it's like, if you get X amount of dollars, you can get a little bit of a pay raise to play with a lesser team, or you can still do really well and still make really good money and win.
I kind of want to snowball off that point. Like the whole family thing, it's so important. And I'm so glad you like are focusing that as a unit. I feel like there's like a stigma with like players just want to like hold on to their own spot. They don't want to help each other. And it's weird. How is the community and how are your weaker players on the team ever going to get better with the way that some of these players view this? They just sit there and like roast one another. It creates an environment of like, I guess like competition, but then you're just like, it's focused on stat padding and you're never going to win like that. You're never going to improve like that. And obviously like with my coaching situation, it happened at times too. And it's just like, you need that. Everyone needs to feel comfortable and be able to be like vulnerable because everyone's not going to play super perfect all the time. Someone's going to get shit on your team, and who's there to pick them up? And a lot of teams don't have that, and those players are not going to get better and not feel comfortable to say anything. And it's just like, I hate seeing that. Like, I just want to see people like have each other's backs a little bit more.
Well, and yeah, and to what you're saying, like that's like how I feel you create a dynasty in a league like this. I feel you have to have people that genuinely want to be here. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't like I don't know. Like I feel like I get along with these guys pretty well. Obviously, I'm a little bit older, but like when I'm hanging out with them, like I genuinely do care about these guys. Like Celium, like that's like my little brother. Like it really is. Like when I first started teaming with him, man, like that was like his first ever team. I was his first ever teammate. We had a terrible run. You know what I'm saying? And till this day, I remember after we didn't qualify for the league, he pats me on the back and goes, "Good try. We'll get him next time." I go, Celium. I go, Celium. MC, or I call him MC. MC, there is no next time, bro. Like, this is it. We're done. You know what I'm saying? Like, like our team is over. And that was the real fact of it. But seriously, no, like, we all, from getting each other birthday gifts and just being a family like Type 5, I feel like that goes a long way. I don't think that's necessary to win championships and stuff. And it's not like my 100 Thieves team did it. Like, you know, you can do it. But I don't know. I feel like to create something, you want like that, just genuinely you want to be there. And I feel like that's really important. And that's kind of what we're trying to instill. Even down when we were down 0-2, like that's how we were kind of like vibing up there.
You don't need that stuff when you're winning. You need that stuff when things are going
when
poorly,
you're losing.
You know?
And that,
go ahead.
Well, when we were down 0-2, sorry. But when we were down 0-2 too, like that's like kind of the vibe that we had. But we can talk about that a little later. Go, Joe.
I mean, just to like, it's sort of like to piggyback off that point. Like there was I'm big into CS. The past like 2 years, Astralis has been dominating, and this article comes out from like Zonic, their coach, and he's like, just the way he talks about it is,
remember that? Yeah.
Every time we walk around, it's Astralis, right? Like we go everywhere as a group, we eat together as a group. When other teams see us, we are together. If we go somewhere, if we go to the gym, it's all 5 of us, like, well, 6 of us. Like he's like that might be a little intense for some teams, like you were saying, and that may not be it, but it's like there is an intimidation factor to that for other people. Like I don't see Faze. I like Sunday night, like obviously we were in Atlanta, but I didn't see you guys. I don't know what you were doing. It's just like I've seen other people. I know what you're talking about, where like Sunday night comes around, people start having a few drinks, and immediately they take the opportunity to dumpster on their teammates.
Yep.
Like it is what it is. It is a toxic environment, and that just doesn't seem to be the thing. Obviously, most of your players, I don't even know if one of them can even go to the bar and have a drink, but
Two of them
two of them. Okay, so yeah, I mean that obviously
It
helps, but. Yeah, I don't know, like that interview always stuck with me because that's how I felt back on like my old OpTic teams, like it was me, Ray, Big T, Set, like whoever, Cap, like we went places together, we ate dinner together, we ate breakfast together. It was a family.
We didn't.
Yeah, like that's just the way it was.
It's how we were so good on complexity too. Those are my brothers, man. Like. You form like a bond that you're not going to get somewhere else, and when that goes away, it's just like it's so easy to write people off. So
yep.
See, that's what I was actually going to ask you, TeeP, because I guess I viewed complexity as being more dysfunctional in finding success
at the start.
But it was like that early.
Yeah. At the start, we were pretty dysfunctional, and then obviously just like egos come into it for sure. And then there was a time though when we were on the middle of that run where it was like do or die for us because like contract stuff wasn't really going well for us. And it was like, we had a moment where we all kind of looked at each other. It's like, we got to push through and make this happen or else we're not going to make it anywhere. We're not going to get a better contract or anything like that. So it's just like, we came together and we did everything together. And I feel like we just had a trust that's hard to find.
So if you could, you're the only person here that's been on a true dynasty. I know Faze isn't there yet, but I think we all agree there's the talent there for the potential, right? The potential's there.
Mm-hmm.
If you, one piece of advice, these Faze players, to make sure things don't like fall apart like happened with you, what would it be?
I feel like it's going to be hard not to come off like corny, but like
it's fine. I'm curious. What do you think?
Keep the passion, keep the hours of game like going. Don't get lazy in practice. Like focus, like make goals for yourself in practice. Try and go on 100 map streak in scrims. Set the bar so goddamn high for yourself that you're never gonna hit it, because that's what you need to keep going. I feel like when you like lose that fire and you lose the trust in one another, like you need to have it as a unit, and that's how you win multiple times. You never lose trust. If someone's doing poorly on the team, that the guy that's doing the best should be the one picking that guy up and bringing that level up together. And I feel like pros just like write each other off so that they're not the one on the chopping block ever. And I hate to see that. So I guess those are like the main things I would say.
And I wasn't part of like a dynasty, but I was part of good teams. The thing for me, it would just be open dialogue. Like legitimately, is like as corny as that is, it's almost like I think Chris talked about it where like Enable was like, hey, can one of you guys watch my gameplay? Right? If someone struggles after an event, right? Like someone should just be like, hey man, like let's watch your VOD. What are you doing wrong? Maybe you're just, you're not playing as selfish as you need. You're not playing for kills. It's simple things like that.
Totally.
Like get out of your own head. Just play Call of Duty. You've been playing it for years. And it's one of those things where I think if someone has a bad event in the back of their mind, they're like, well, my teammates are already thinking about, dropping me. Or instead it should just be like, hey guys, I struggled that event. Like my bad. Help me out. Like, give me some tips, watch my gameplay. Obviously now it's different. There's coaching staffs for teams. But instead of like we talk about like, teams are immediately thinking, drop this player. There's no like, hey, we know you did bad. Acknowledge it, improve. Simple. Yeah. And it's not a thing anymore. Well, it is for some people, but it should be more consistent across the board for all these teams.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wouldn't say to touch on the quick topic of we're not like a dynasty yet. I feel like we're talking about this yet. Like we have a long way to go.
You're not even close.
Yeah, okay, I'm just making sure. Yeah, I just want to make that very clear. But I know we're talking about potential. But I mean, to be honest, of what Joe, like what you just said, like I've been on teams on both ends. I think all of me, you, and Tyler have been where it's like, all right, I'm getting dropped. All right, like I have like brothers behind me.
It's tough to play.
My champs team. I never thought I was going to get dropped. And I was the worst player on my champs team statistically, but like they all, you know what I'm saying? Like we all believed in each other for a very long time before we broke up. And when we broke up, I literally went to Clay face to face and was like, I'm not cutting it. I've been putting in the effort. Like something needs to change. You know what I'm saying? It was not like Clay saying, all right, you suck, like behind my back. It was a very like face to face. I sat down with him, with Cap and Dylan. And we're like, all right, we need to change because like right now I'm not playing well enough, and you have opportunities to make a change. Like, do it. But to go what you were saying, like, yeah, no, I mean, that's why I love Priesta. I said it on the desk, and like when I was talking with Courage for a little bit, he has been one of the few teammates. I've had a few others that have like sat me down after a terrible event, and instead of just like saying like, yeah, like let's just get rid of Chris, like he's old and he's bad. You know what I'm saying? He sat me down and he's like, bro, like I've seen you play, like I've played against you and with you, like I know you're better than this. Like let's figure out why you suck. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we would laugh about it, and then scrims after every day. We were talking about it in the car literally this morning about World War II. We were terrible. We led up the champs. We're not looking that good. If you go back and watch our World War II champs, we were a good team. Like we got third. I played well. Preston played well, and it was literally after every night of
just
scrims.
that envy match, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we would watch, dude. We would watch our gameplay back and literally just roast each other, like in a good fun way. Like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you got to start aiming in on this play. You know what I'm saying? Like little things like that, and I think we both benefited from a lot. And it's that personality just goes such a long way, and that's why I think he is so underrated. Just not even as a player, just as a person. And I think that is just so important.
Yeah.
That was a really good conversation. Clint, nice job. Nice job on that one. It's just like we could talk about just that topic on its own for probably forever.
Yeah, I felt I had some good questions, so I just popped off some questions to let you guys go. Good shit, boys.
I like it. So Faze come away with the win. They're looking damn good. They're looking to obviously continue the run from this point forward. I guess let's move on to some other teams throughout the tournament. I'm just gonna, while we go over some of these matches, I'm just gonna throw up the different group and then the bracket graphics as well. I don't know if who wants to take it away with a certain team or whatever, but just kind of go for it. I'll throw up the brackets and we'll go from there.
I think up next, most people probably want to talk about Huntsmen. Mm-hmm. I think everybody was sort of looking forward to Atlanta, Chicago. And a lot of times when like you have that match that you just want to see, it doesn't happen all the time. Like, it just doesn't, right? Like, the competition is there. And I think for Chicago fans, there's a couple of ways to look at it, right? Like, again, the depth of the league, it is good. Like, there are a lot of good teams. We even saw it at London when they had to reverse sweep Paris. We just saw it here at Atlanta, where Atlanta had to reverse sweep Minnesota. And unfortunately, they lose in a game 5 to a hot Florida team on that day. And it's going to happen to Atlanta, where one day they're going to face a hot team on a Sunday or a Saturday and lose a match. If this was a different roster, I would be afraid. Right? Like if it was last year's roster, I think I would be worried. But the Huntsmen, like guys like Arstees and Envoy, they know exactly what went wrong. They know what they need to fix, and they're going to work on it. Like these guys, it's different than like past Formal and Scump teams. It just is. Like it feels like there's more of a camaraderie and more of a, this is what we need to do to play our best Call of Duty. It's just Sunday wasn't their day, right? Like a few players had an off day and they lose in a game 5.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you're saying. And then TeeP, I think, I saw a couple comments going at his take about Huntsman before the event, where he just said they look vulnerable. They went to a bunch of game 5s. They seem very beatable. And there were people going at him in the YouTube comments. I was like, he's right. I mean, they looked very beatable. They start out 6-0 in Hardpoint. Since then, I believe since the Paris match at London, they're 3-5. So they've been super inconsistent there. We know their search has improved, but it's not great yet. I think Envoy's tweet after the event kind of nailed it. He said, we're so inconsistent in so many facets of the game. We got to improve. But I think I was outside with Gunless, Formal, and Scump after the event, and they were having a really good, just honest convo about stuff, just saying, we need to get better. This could be good for us in the long run. Just realizing that we aren't the top dog, and we have a lot of things to improve on. And even like little stuff, like Scump just didn't personally think he played very well. He said it was weird because he said he played less before London and felt so good. He played more before Atlanta, and it just wasn't clicking. He's like, my movement fell off, and that was hurting my confidence. I think it really truly was a fluke of a weekend. It was just an off weekend where they weren't playing at their best. But I tweeted this out the other day. Part of me is glad they didn't get to the final versus Faze, because I truly believe they would have got 3-0 bopped. I do not think it would have been a close series with how Huntsman was playing that particular weekend. And now it sets up for something crazy because they haven't played yet. I think we all agree they're still the top 2 teams.
Yep.
What is it? Huntsman won't be at LA. Let's say Atlanta win that. Then Atlanta won't be at Dallas.
Yeah.
Let's say Huntsman win that. They next match up in Chicago. So that would be insane from a storyline standpoint. If that's how it plays out. Obviously, a lot of things have to fall into place, and it might not go that route, but I think that's the most logical route it goes if you were to think about it right now. So I think with Joe too. I'm not that worried yet. I think, and I've said this since the beginning of the year. If this team loses a lot of events in a row, if they are bad multiple events in a row, I start to get a little bit worried about some of the personalities clashing. But I think the fact that they won the first event and handled business, it almost gives them a more of a cushion for me, where I'm not really worried about that because they proved they can win. But yeah, that's my take on it. They're going to bounce back. Not too worried.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a reality check. They come off hot. They prove their point. They get the Dallas wins, right? That's super important. The biggest thing is you finally see how the team is playing when you have individuals kind of underperforming. Call of Duty is very easy as a team when you're positive. When you're dropping a 1.2 as a team, you're having a laugh. You know, Hardpoints real easy. Wow, we run that rotation. Our rotations were fluid there. What happens when you're 20 and 30? Are you going the right way off spawn? Are your smokes good every single time you throw them? Are your nades money? Are you calling out how you should? Are you directing people when you should? Are you calling out spawns? That's just there's so many things you can rattle off when you're doing poorly on the map. And that you need a situation like that. You need some sort of failure for them to like open up and be like, oh crap, like I need to put more out on the table if I don't put up the stats. So like you have individuals on that team that don't perform like you're used to seeing from them. And you just see the things sort of fall through with their gameplay. There's a lot of times in Hardpoint where I'm like, wow, that rotation seemed like 5-10 seconds late. Like what the hell was that? And it's just like, it's situations like that I don't know if they've gotten enough like failures yet to know what to do when things are going poorly for them in Hardpoint. So just as an example. So I'm interested to see how they bounce back. I think they do have the level heads to make a lot of improvements very quickly. So I'm excited to see how people turn around. I guess the one person I'm just surprised to see do so poorly after how he's looked in Modern Warfare is, I guess, Gunless. I don't know. I feel like Seth, obviously I know Seth a little bit better. So like I kind of expect Seth to maybe have like up and down performances, just how he's been recently. But like Gunless, he's looked so phenomenal and he just looked off as well. So that's like the one person on the team where I just didn't think he would have a lackluster performance like that.
Even just if you're talking purely stats, like I know we've hammered home the fact that every AR is dominating. Like even when a team's not,
I was going to say,
even when a team's not doing well, the AR is dominating. Like who's a team that didn't do great? OpTic. Even
Wuskin.
Dashy drops a 1.08 or Wuskin. What the hell did Wuskin drop? A
1.38.
1.38. So even when teams are doing well, the ARs are dropping bombs. What was formal? A 0.99?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
0.99.
Which surprised me, I guess, just because I think at the first two events, even when teams aren't succeeding, their ARs are dropping numbers. So I think it wasn't just the fact of like, one guy being off. Like I think it was a team-wide thing where just no one was really truly on point. And if that's going to happen, you're in trouble. I don't know how you pick that up, but when people are off, like that's just going to happen. When it's single limb, you're in trouble. Like Chris, what would you say with your guys? Because you obviously have twisted talent on your team. Like your guys are insane. How do you get past like individual performances not great? Like what do you think is your biggest strength to get past it, I guess?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I said this last podcast, and I think this is how Huntsman's probably thinking. This is how if we lost to Minnesota, that's exactly how I would have thought too, to be honest, is like you're gonna lose. It's like the way this format is, you can like it's very hard. Like it's very easy to win because it's single limb. All you gotta do is win 2 matches. You know what I'm saying? But it's also very hard to win because all it takes is that one mistake we made against Minnesota where they're a great team, a phenomenal team. They played well that entire map and they beat us on that Hackney yard. We're down 0-1. You know what I'm saying? Like right then and there, it's like the entire series has changed. So it's like, I don't think I would worry about it too much. I mean, if they are all confident and they're all champions, like I'm not too worried about them. It's kind of what we're saying. I think like they just had an off day. Like I've seen my team, I've seen the best teams in the world. You guys have been on some of the best teams in the world. Like you're going to get on one day and just get smoked in online scrims. And obviously a lot of people just start whining about how it's online and not LAN. And I've also scrimmed on LAN now recently when I was World War II and everything was on LAN. Like you're going to get on some days and just be off, and pick the wrong Sunday.
And other teams are going to peak too.
The tournament that I won in World War II, Do you think if we played that OpTic team again the next Sunday, we would have won? No, we would have gotten smoked. You know what I'm saying? But we won that day. Like
That one hurt.
it's not. Yeah,
That final was wow. That killed the team. That final killed that roster.
Oh god, that was fun to deal with.
that happens though, you know, like that really does happen. And I honestly, if this was like 3 weekends in a row, obviously then we have to start having different conversations about this. But right now, they came out slow on a Sunday and it happens. It's not the end of the world, and they're still a great team.
Fine,
you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like that's why like people ask me, I got the question so many times. I actually hated the question, but I got it. Like, were you disappointed in not seeing him in the final? It's like, I'm disappointed as I feel like discrediting other teams. I think there's a lot of great teams in this league. There's only 60 players and they're all, you know what I'm saying? That's not a lot of people, but like, no, like it's not a disappointment. Like they had an off weekend and it's not the end of the world. Like, yeah, it's just like, I don't know, you know, like I feel like people
got to the semifinal, right? They still got top 4. They had a bunch of CDL points. Like,
that was a good weekend for Chicago. It wasn't bad.
One thing that maybe you want to like focus on, it's like maybe the first match, like going all the way game 5, round 11 with Toronto. Like that's a little scary.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like beating Rocker 3-1, that's a good win. Like we know how good Rocker is, right? And then losing in game 5 to Florida, it's like in a semifinal. We just talked about it. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen to everybody. So if there's one thing where you're like, maybe this is a little sketchy, maybe that Toronto game. But everything else, like you still got top 4. They competed with Florida. Like I don't know.
And that's it. To answer your question, Maven. So basically, it's like, yeah, like I just would shake it off, you know, like those guys are all confident. They're not going to let that break them, you know, like this.
Well, I don't mean afterwards. I more mean when it's happening. Like,
I mean, when it's happening, the
like
best
how
way,
do you overcome when you're just playing like shit, sort of? Is there anything you can do?
I mean, if you're playing like shit and you can acknowledge you're playing like shit, for me, like as a player, I played like shit a lot, you know, but like, it's like, but when you just have to make sure you're making the right plays in the system of however your team likes to play it. Like every hill, everything, you know, you have like the specific breaks, holds, rotations, whatever it is. Like just stick to your rules, you know, just do your thing. Like you can win while going negative. I'm pretty sure one of them, I think we had a map on LAN this weekend where we got smoked. Other than Cellium, everyone got smoked.
Yeah, it was Hackney.
And we did it.
And
it's just, I'm telling you, like, it's just, with all those guys knew, like, stick to the system. We might be having an off game, but you can still win it. You know,
that was
like,
against Ravens. That was against Ravens.
There's someone on your team that can pick it up. Cellium was the guy, and everyone else just do your thing. Like, you know, there's times where you have to take the back seat and be like, all right, like, yo, you go do your thing. I'm kind of the ass right now. You know what I'm saying? And then there's times where like,
I'm going in first.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think is like really special about the guys on our team being so young, like having so much eyes on them. Is just they understand that, you know, and I think that goes a long way with, especially when you're having individual off series.
Good point. Yeah, I think that's pretty covers a lot about Huntsmen. We all feel very confident about the team still. Obviously, amazing roster. A lot of promise still to be showed, I'm sure. But I guess we can move on, unless anyone else has any other points about the Huntsmen. But move on to Florida, shocking people, making it to the final, looking pretty damn good. Kind of got smoked in the final, but regardless of that, they had some crazy ass wins that a lot of people did not expect. Individuals performing on the team, like I don't know, Havoc, for example, looked like a completely different player. Many players on the team, to be honest. Skies look great.
Christini.
So yeah, individuals shining through. Kind of a scrappy team, but the fact they're able to pull out so many wins and strong S&D, man, it's gonna, over the course of the year, it's gonna be very, very important.
It's just crazy when you think about some of their series and the fact they got to a final. Like Joe and I casted their first series against London. They got shit on. I looked at it because you picked Florida to come out after map 1. I go, Joe, you worried? He goes, yeah. Like they just got fried in that series. Then think about the OpTic series to get to the semi. They won a round 11 game 2. They had the draw 1-point win in the game 3. Like they had some insane. I don't even know how. Did we just watch back the final minute of that Dom? It's absurd they won that game. Like how that finished was wild. So considering how they started and the fact they got there, I think it's a testament to what Chris was talking about. Like there are days where anyone's gonna be able to win. Someone's gonna get hot and they're gonna make a run. I think that's what makes this current kind of schedule and format really interesting. Is like there's going to be your Floridas that make a run, and you know they get more screen time. They get a chance to really be up on the main stage in the final, and I thought it was really cool. Now, do I think they're a top 2 team? No, I do not. Do I think they have potential to make a run like that again? Yeah, but I guess I feel like that about nearly everybody outside of like
this league is
OpTic and
competitive.
Ultra right now that
Yeah.
can actually get to a final. So I just thought it was cool because I saw Ogre 2 in the back, their GM, after the first series. He just looks at me and goes, and for them to get back and do that, I thought it was cool. And then I thought the just to touch, I don't want to dive in too much, but God, our community is so soft sometimes. Like that Mutineers versus Huntsmen series was so cool because of the brother storyline. And I, for one, thought that moment was it was awesome. I mean, and people need to understand, RCs didn't have to do that interview. Like, he can say no. No one's forced to do that stuff. Was it a tough moment to watch for some? Yeah. Did people cry? Yeah. I call that a beautiful goddamn moment. When we were up there commentating, when I saw the shot of their mom, I almost lost it. I literally had to hold back tears mid-cast. So
that's how I felt. It was just, it too.
Dude, it was a beautiful moment. And like, is it hard to watch? Is it tough to swallow? Yeah, but I just thought that was one of the cooler moments we've captured this year. Without
Call of Duty in general.
Yeah, it was crazy to see. But yeah, I don't know. That was awesome.
Just a big moment for Pristini. The guy has not gotten enough credit. I'll keep saying it until he keeps getting the credit. He played really, really well. He won a world championship. The guy's on a solid run as well. Everyone's talking about all the other players like doing so well. Like, he's in a good spot. Like, people are underrating the roster. He's performing well. And for him to, like, it probably just gave him a lot of confidence. Who thought that they would even have a chance in hell versus Huntsmen? I didn't. So the fact that he's able to, like, prove it to himself is just as a player and getting a big win over, like, a favored roster, it's awesome. You love to see it. The interview was super emotional. And you just got to capture stuff like that. It's a great point. Like, it gets the feels going. It gets you
human
invested.
Moments, man.
Yeah.
These guys are humans.
And if you know their story as people too, like it's awesome to see it.
I just think people need to understand, like, they don't have to do that shit.
Yeah.
Like,
not at all. Yeah.
RC's, maybe he felt he did. I don't know. I wasn't there when it happened, but he didn't have to do it. I want to think that he understood the importance of it at the time, and it was great that it got captured. But I just saw so many Reddit posts and tweets like, "How dare you do that to him?" Like, I think that is one thing he's going to look back at in his career, and it's going to be a wild moment that him and his brother had, and they're going to talk about it 20 years from now. Like, it's just.
Chris, anything on Florida?
No, I mean, well, Joe was right. So Joe, I thought
Joe
I was
made the
gonna
pick.
let Joe, I was gonna let Joe go, but I mean, honestly,
yeah, go ahead, dude. Go ahead.
No,
Chris.
you're
I'll go last. Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy that Pristini played well. Like, overall, I think very highly of their coach, Ricky Atura. I actually wanted him to do the whole walkout. You know how like they had the coaches walk through the crowd this time? I really wanted him to do that. I'm happy he did it like for the final because I think he is a really bright mind in Call of Duty. He doesn't get talked about enough. And just watching their team do well was awesome. That's a scrappy team. Like, I wouldn't say like I'm surprised they made a run, kind of like what Maven just said. Like, I think any team, this is a competitive league. Yeah, I really do. With the single limb, I think you can show up on a Sunday and these teams are good. You know, like all these guys are good. Like, I'm not discrediting any team ever just because of how well they can play.
I love it, man.
And it's great. And that's the thing. That's the best part about it. But I was just so happy for Pristini because I've been a big fan of him since Black Ops 3 Champs when I was casting. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I was retired at the moment, I was casting and I watched this guy play and he got like a 6-piece HVK feed on Rise on literally, I think it was evac hardpoint. I think I remember it like vividly, and I was like, wow, this guy is good. And the way he plays, man, it's kind of like, if you relate it to my team, Abizi is someone who you talk about Simp, and he's always got this 1-3 KD, and he's amazing. Simp's incredible, and you talk about Celium, and you talk about these guys, but like Abizi's putting up like a 1.05 or something, but that's not the same as most people's 1.05s, you know? And that's how I view Pristini, man. Like, if Pristini puts up a 0.8 to a 1.05, like in that range, man, like that is just not the same as a lot of players with like that stat. And it is just the way they play, how impactful he is on the map. You can even see it when he was playing against Huntsmen. He was an absolute menace on the map in the search and destroys. He was running all over the place. Like,
he plays to his guns.
Yes.
That's like my favorite
player
part
to go
is like
against.
What we see a lot of times in search is like a team will go down 3-0 and they slow things down. They don't like go for map pressure. Pristini's just like, I'm down 3, I'm going. Don't care. That's almost like when he turns on the Jets, right? Like, well, we're down, so screw it. I'm hitting it back. Right? What's it matter, right? And I just don't think a lot of people have
that.
that.
Overlooked. And that gets overlooked, man. I'm telling you, he is so much better than people have given him credit for. And I hope this year people start to appreciate him more, just because I don't know. He's a great player. I like him as a person. I think he's pretty motivated as well. I can't speak to that too well because I don't know him that well, like how his practice and his work ethic is, but he just seems to really care, and watching him do well is just the best part about that. So I don't know. That was my biggest take for them. I was just happy for him. Really. I really was.
Yeah. I'm going to go at this a different way for Florida. I picked them to get out of groups. Why? I don't know. I didn't trust OpTic, and I don't trust London. And I was just sort of like, I don't know, if it comes down to a few game 5s, who am I going to take? And I went with sort of like the Gen G guys, because I think that Gen G team last year was super overlooked. This guy's had a breakout year. So I just felt like this roster overall was overlooked in a way. Would it surprise me if at the next event they got knocked out of groups and didn't make a semifinal? They lost the first 2 matches. Absolutely not, because there does need to be more consistency. Like, yes, Pristini can play at this play style, great. But you know what? I mean, we know the winning formula, right? You have to be able to slay with your Chicagos, and I know they won in a game 5, but I don't know if that's going to continue to happen where they're going to get reverse sweeps on them, or you play your Dallases, your Atlantas. You have to be able to slay with them. And what we got as Skies was awesome. But I'm looking at the other 2 submachine gun players in Frosty and Havoc. You have a lot of pace here, right? A guy like Frosty, Havoc, and Pristini are in front of you. I feel like you got to be able to produce a little bit more. So for me, they aren't going to win playing this way. It's just the way it is. There needs to be a little bit more consistency on their side. I like the team a lot. Like, that's why I thought they were going to get out of groups. I like the composition of the team. I know they're going to be a strong search and destroy team, but beating the best teams in the world, there has to be more consistent slaying. And until I see that, I don't think they're going to win an event. But they can have a day like this where they can get to a final, or they can get out of groups for absolutely. It reminds me of Gen G in a lot of ways. Like, I never thought Gen G was going to win. We talked about it on Trading Shots. How many times, Clint? Like, nobody ever picked them. It's just because those guys, when you go up against your 100 Thieves and your other teams, we didn't think they could slay with them. They could play the correct way, but it still comes down to those key gunfight moments, those key kills on the map, and nobody trusted them to do that in the big moment. And that is very similar to me for this Florida roster. They have to be able to pick it up just a little bit at certain times and be more consistent in response. And I think you have a very good one. But yeah, again, it wouldn't surprise me if the next event they don't make top 4. Yeah. Because a lot of things went their way.
To bounce off that point, you look at Pristini and Havoc's play style, it's not going to be them. They're going to be 1.1 to 0.9 players. They play too fast. They play too scrappy.
Too quick.
The game is a shit show when they're on the map.
Yeah.
It's got to be Mox or Frosty. Mox dropped a 0.99. He's a slow player. Everyone knows that, right? Like, he's a slower player on the team. It's got to be him, or it's got to be Frosty that needs to put up not superstar stats, but a 1.1 plus. Like, Skies proved himself, in my opinion. He's still slaying. He's still going, right? You need some more. And obviously there's a lot that goes into getting kills and getting stats or whatever, but you need one more player on that team that can put up the muscle that you need to be consistently good enough in respawn versus the top teams. Completely agree with the points, to be honest, because until they find that form with one of those 2 guys, I'm on the same page, man. I don't see them consistently being able to get through, I don't know, like groups or a big bracket match.
And that's the name of the game in COD, man, is consistency.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you end this year as a team or as an organization with 3 or 4 championships under your belt.
And that's the name of Pristini and Havoc's career, is inconsistency. And that's what's scary. Like, it is. And I know, like, we just talked about Pristini, like how, like, the impact he has, but still, like, you know, what is he averaging in Hardpoint? I forget. It's 57 engagements. Like if he's losing, you know, 60 to 70% of those, that's not good. But you flip that and he's winning, I don't know, 60% of those. That's going to make everybody's life so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think he meshed with Abizi and Simp so well. I think
Right, that's why I think the dynamic between him, Havoc, and Frosty, someone should be going off or picking up more. It's just the way it should be.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
One thing I want to touch on, something that TeeP said before we get to a team that I really, really want to talk about.
Yeah.
You said someone has to step it up, and I actually do think the person with the most room to improve is Mox. I think we have all seen him be the most vocal about not liking this particular title, not wanting to put time in this particular title. I saw a response to a fan, I think he had just 2 days ago. It's basically said, "I suck right now. I do not play the game enough. I'm going to turn it around." And I guess if there is one thing that might lock him in a little bit more, it's probably getting to a grand final and realizing, hey, we actually have a chance to do some stuff with this team. So I think if he can get back to what he was with Gen G and be like a top player in that flex position, I think it helps him a lot with the consistency thing. But we'll see if he can.
Well, that's just a role thing, though, right?
Winding down and focus on the game.
He wasn't a flex with Gen G, right? Like that's just a role thing where he's going to have to get comfortable with a sub. Skies is obviously doing what the main ARs are doing. So yeah, I mean he's got to figure it out.
Even more reason he needs to play the damn game more.
Yeah.
And a sub role in this game is not like a sub role in Black Ops 4. The way that you have to be twisted right now in this game, like
it's crazy.
It's crazy. So yeah, it's for a player like him to switch his slower play style, as people like to say, to a sub role in this game. It's tough. That's not an easy transition whatsoever.
Extra time, put it in. Simple as that. Yep. All right, Clint, bring us in. I know you want to talk about it.
All right. I am on the record as saying OpTic Gaming have the perfect roster, and that I think they will eventually be the best team in the game. All right. Let's start by me saying I'm not sure it's necessarily completely hit the panic button time, but we're getting damn close. So TeeP, I'm going to involve you in this conversation because I've been trying to think about. I've actually thought about this a lot because I said that on the record. I don't want to look like a jackass. I think we all agree, from a talent standpoint, this team should work. Yes, Cap might not be the best, but it still should work on the back of the 4 other players. Would it be better if this was a 2 AR meta more? Sure. But even without that, they should be good. So that makes you question, what is going wrong if it's not the talent standpoint? And I started thinking about it more, and it took me back to last year, which TeeP, you were coaching the OpTic Gaming roster.
Yep.
Crim, which I think we can all agree shares some similarities with Slasher when you talk about mindset and presence. Crim really got frustrated with TJ and Dashy because they were acting like children. He said he was constantly babysitting. He said they didn't put the effort in scrims. He said they didn't try to get better. He pinned a lot on them publicly. I think back then, because Crim was playing so poorly statistically, that I thought it was almost Crim just kind of pushing off his own results onto those two. Now, with how this team is not seemingly getting much better and still struggling, I find myself wondering, is there a whole lot more truth to what Crim was saying? And Dashy and TJ are giant goddamn babies, and they need to turn it around if this team is going to improve. I'm starting to fall into that side of things. Detective Clint is on the case.
OpTic looks like shit. There's it could be for a lot of different reasons. I guess to the first point, the similarities.
I want to hear
between,
your opinion from OpTic. Yes,
yeah,
when you
for sure.
with them,
The similarities between Slasher and Ian. So obviously I teamed with Slasher for a little bit. Our team sucked when we was Black Ops 3, that envy team. Like, Slasher wants quick results. He wants to turn things around, and he's going to be vocal enough to get those results, or something's going to happen, right? So we're getting that same sort of point there, because they're not having any sort of success. Then speaking to the Dashy and TJ side of it, there's no way they're probably doing well in that environment too, because they didn't always do well with Ian being that way. And I have to admit myself, like, I was a hard ass in scrims too. That's how I am. If you're not always challenging yourself, and you're always taking, I don't want to say the easy way out, but if you're not like putting full effort in all the time and like really trying to focus on your weak points, it's going to take you longer and longer to improve. There's also times where I don't feel like Ian like owned up to his own shit enough in scrims too. Like, he was trying to be the one being serious, the hard ass, trying to fix every single mistake, and maybe not focusing on his own mistakes enough too. So I don't want to take both sides. There was times where Dashy and Tej they're my boys. I love those guys. I think we underperformed as a roster, but there was definitely times where they were not taking their job serious enough in scrims. They were copping out because of online. It pissed me the hell off. We wasted so much time with practice, and then there's other times where Ian was being a hard-headed fucking guy as well, and it just creates this butting of heads between the two different sides, and there's me and Barlow in the middle like, guys, what the fuck are we doing? So doing that for an extended period of time just created such a crazy tension within our team. And obviously we saw what happened when the whole split went down. So
I'm worried we're right back there.
I don't know if enough time has gone by yet, and I don't want to just instantly write off that Dashy and Tej like aren't taking it serious. I don't believe it for a second. I think we've already seen. Anyways, I've given my opinion. Like, you need certain people to be cracked in this game, and Dashy needs to be the do-it-all, like flex, sub, pull out whatever gun necessary and drop.
He's doing it now, right?
Yeah. So apparently he switched over. I think Slasher being in that main AR role makes a lot more sense for the team and for his play style. Dashy, do not whatever is necessary. You don't want to be baiting your team and everything, but be Dashy, be cracked, and get a million altercations with a 1.2 KD, and then everyone else just try and like figure it out in a sense. So like I think the role switch makes a lot of sense for what we've seen from them so far. But man, it's looking scary for sure.
Well, yeah, I have been. I mean, I could be wrong, but I've become convinced that is what's going on. And maybe I'm wrong, but that I've convinced myself of that via my intelligent brain. But I have another question now. I guess I'll kind of pitch to Chris and Joe. Is it at the point where do these guys basically need to get to the final in LA, otherwise the team change is happening?
Yes, I think so.
That's kind of how I feel.
I think, well, it depends how it goes. I just think knowing Slasher and Kenny, obviously more than the others, even Cap, I know Cap very. They don't go to these events to get 6th, 4th, 3rd. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not happy. Like you can go to this event and they can beat, say, like you talk about the teams that have won. They can beat Chicago and then Atlanta. I know Chicago's not there, and then they get 3rd place somehow. That doesn't matter. They're pissed off. They're not happy. They're not satisfied, and they're not going to be people that want to deal with it. Obviously, I don't know the internal problems, but I think if they were to come out here and not show a sign of life, like a good sign of life, like a final, you know what I'm saying? I think they're going to start getting tired of it. Personally.
Can I actually pitch you a different question, Joe?
Sure.
This is on a different side of it. Similar to what I talked to TeeP about, but okay. So we know all the rumors about Dashy wanting to leave for Chicago last second, right? We heard all that right after when all the rosters were rumored. I don't know how much was public, but I know that people were discussing it in the sense that we heard Dashy wanted to go to the Huntsmen instead of OpTic.
Yeah, like he was like trying to get out of his contract.
Yes. Like we heard all those rumors. So we know that Dashy he had that little brief thing with Complexity, but when he blew up, when he was a superstar, was in the OpTic glory time. With Hector's OpTic, he blew up. There were the Bruce chants. He was the duo of Scump. He was Mr. Do-It-All. The entire crowd was behind him at every event. It could not be the more opposite now with fake OpTic, whatever you want to call it. There aren't the chants going down. He's not the superstar. He's not on the Scump Huntsman team. With how young he is, do you think that is a scenario that might be too much for his ego? Or just too much for him as a player?
Well, I just think it's one of those things where like he got the, you got the good stuff, man, right away, right? Like you got the good stuff. You know what it was like to be on, on OpTic, right? Like to have that fan base behind you, to play well. And it's not, I mean, they won 1 title, but like everybody knew it was like if we're gonna win, Dashy had to go off. So yeah, I just think it's different for him. I mean, it's like hard. I don't know. I don't know if he can just like accept it, or this is like that, like I need to grow up moment. Like I need to own this.
Yeah, that's how I view
it. And it's the same thing for TJ. Like it's the same thing. Like touching on Dashy and Slasher, like TJ played horrible.
Yeah.
Like he played horrible.
Yeah.
Like
He did.
He was so bad, we're not talking about cap stats. Like,
yeah. Like this to me, to what we were talking about at the top of the show, this is the complete opposite of what we're talking about. Like these guys need to get in a room and just figure it out. You know what? Like, what do we want to do? How do we want to do it? You know what? Obviously there's like a lot, like, Cap's not playing well. someone should be like, hey, Cap, you're not playing well. Let's figure it out. Let's get you better. Right? Like,
I let me interject for 1 second.
Yeah.
Here's the stats. Dashy, 1.08. Cap, 0.81. Kenny, 0.81. Slasher, 0.88. Tej, 0.74. Those are all trash. So, like,
horrible.
Continue with your point,
even
but
Dashy's
man, they
okay,
are a
but
mess.
He's the M4,
Yeah,
so, like, I mean, that's what we've been seeing.
Go on with your point, but, like, wow, that's not good.
But this is the thing, like, are these guys doing simple things like VOD sessions? What is Pac-Man doing as coach? I have no idea. I don't know how this team is as dysfunctional as it is when you have all of these pieces. Like, and especially when you have pieces like Kenny, Slasher, and Cap. Like, maybe we know last year with like TJ and Kenny, it was maybe a little dysfunctional, right? They wanted to have fun, and Scump would egg them on. We know Seth likes to have fun, and they probably felt protected by that. Like, that was probably like, protect me, big brother type thing from the big bad man named Crim Six. But yeah, now they don't have that. Like, and they just should be able to get to these guys. Like, we play at a certain way. Like, we show up on time for scrims. We give it 100%. Like, we have a VOD session. What goes wrong? What isn't going wrong? And I just don't know if that's happening. And I would probably say with the results in 0 CDL points that it's not happening. It just makes no sense.
What's crazy though, Joe, is that I'm getting to the point where I'm worried it's past the point of fixing it already. And I don't know if it is, but that's what I'm starting to get worried about. Like I said, I'm not hitting the panic button, but there's part of me that's worried it's past that. But what's also crazy though, when you think about this, yeah, their stats haven't been good. Yeah, their results haven't been good. They've lost to Chicago. They won a tournament.
Yeah.
They've lost to Faze. They won a tournament. They lost to Florida. They just got second. They lost to Paris after they were like a top 4 team with winning both their matches in Minnesota and getting to a semifinal. So all 4 of their losses, none of them are bad. Like they couldn't beat Florida.
But here's my rebuttal to that.
They don't look good, but like their losses aren't even bad.
Here's my rebuttal to that. Yeah, Paris got top 4. Guess what happened to this event? Double bopped out. Well,
but that was back when. But they played them back when they were hot.
Sure. Cool. Whatever you want to say. Same thing with Florida. We just talked about it. We don't believe Florida is going to be a consistent top 2 team. So like they should be able to beat these teams. They should have CDL points. Like the fact that they don't, I get it. They had some tough draws. It's just, to me, I don't know, man. It's just a dysfunctional mess, and it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be.
Winning's the only thing that fixes that sometimes, man.
But like we're able to talk somewhat positive points for even teams that are struggling, right? Like, what's the shining star for them? Yeah, go ahead, Crowder.
I have 2 things to Maven, to your argument with you and Joe just right there. Florida doesn't get second if OpTic wins. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Florida, like you guys just said, like you don't think Florida's a top 2 team. So like them losing to a team that got second is because they let them get second. You know what I'm saying? Like that. So that's probably not the best way to evaluate that. But I'm not saying anything bad about Florida.
Well, I mean, the fact that they beat Huntsmen after.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But regardless, the only thing I'm not hitting the panic button on OGLA. You just screw the Slasher. Don't give up on Slasher thing. Like I think he's great. Everyone knows that. I'm saying this now. I think the loss to us being a 3-0 in a pretty dominant fashion, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that hurt them more, in my opinion, because I'm telling you, I really thought I picked them to get out of the groups, and I obviously watched them play, like, when they play my team. Like, this OGLA team still has, like, maybe I haven't played them since, but they have signs of life. Like, they are a good team when they want to be. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know the internal matters, but, like, they are a good team when they want to be. It's just I feel like after they lost, it could have been a product of like them saying like them getting frustrated at the tournament and not like regaining from it. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know, because I really thought like they looked good before that event, man. Like they really did. I just don't know what happened after they lost to us, but I feel like that was a big part of it. Like
to me, that just with this format cannot be an excuse anymore.
Oh, I agree. I agree. That's
the same thing with like, well, on Sunday they had a match before us. Can't be a thing anymore. It just can't with this format. You have to be prepped at all times. So I don't know. Like I really don't know. Like nobody played that well. Like it really didn't. I don't know if I think Slash will be more comfortable. But there was a reason Dashy wanted to run a main AR. I was watching Tens last night with Dashy with a MP5, and I mean, to me, it's almost like a Maddox where he can do whatever the heck he wants.
My point. Like
Yeah, I mean, the guy can do whatever
do
he
it
wants.
all. Let him move around the map. He's nuts.
I think, unfortunately, the guy who slipped under all of this is Kenny. I still think Kenny is. I've watched scrims, and I think he underperformed this event. I think he's still really freaking good. To me, it's just on. I don't know. Can Slasher get better, and can we see a better TJ? Like, we need to see a better TJ. It's just what it is. I mean,
a little shit, dude.
I don't know, man. This is it's not fun to watch. Like, it sucks. Like, I'm sure all the ex-OpTic gaming fans are like, yeah, bro, like, let's go. Told you guys.
But like, if they're good, like, think about this league. If they get to what we think they should be, holy shit! Like, think about this league. How competitive it'll be. The team that I still think could be like in that top 3 combo has 0 points. Like, this league could be insane, man.
And like,
I mean, it just takes one weekend, but unfortunately, they have a week until the next event for them.
Yeah.
And it's a very winnable group. They're in I mean, it's like them in Minnesota, I think.
Yeah.
They play the Gorillas to start. And then Minnesota plays somebody else in that group. Like, it compared to the other group, it's stacked.
Yeah.
So I think LA, they just have to have a better performance. I don't know if they have to win. I think they do have to get out of groups.
Not win,
you have to
but
see
like
improvement. Yeah, you have to see them get out of groups and have a tough semifinal against a good team.
Or get to the final, or lose to. Yeah, I mean, the only team that would be okay for them to lose to me is like Faze.
Yeah.
That's the point it's at for me.
So,
very tough situation. I'm sure it's very stressful for all the people involved.
I'm sure it is.
And like, we know these guys. It sucks, man. But like, you gotta figure it out. It's too much talent in one team. Like, it's crazy to even see them in this sort of spot. And the fact that we're saying this stuff about this caliber of players it's just crazy in itself.
Yeah, this to me is just the example of what we were talking about, of not doing the little things to make them a better team. Yeah. Like those team activities. I think this is a example of it, and I think it's on every single one of them. Someone needs to step up as a leader. That's just what it has to happen. Like, lead by example, right? It's just what it comes down to, and someone needs to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. Harped on the OpTic situation. They have their work cut out for them for sure. Moving on to Minnesota and Paris. I'm going to throw up this bracket once again so you can see how these guys ended up finishing. But everyone's thoughts on Minnesota and Paris. I didn't knock Minnesota beforehand in the previous podcast, but I didn't really have that much hope for them. I don't know if this result was enough for me to like have a lot of faith in Minnesota still. Again, it's another one of those teams where it's like, when they play against they're like sort of in that like 4th, 5th, 6th zone where I'm like, they're good, but I don't know. I'm not super sure.
I lost to Huntsmen in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just that's what it comes down to.
It's tough. I don't want to take too much away from them, but
I mean, come out, Chris and I, right?
Yeah, I'll start. I didn't pick them, and that's just because we looked at the strength of schedule of who they played at their opening weekend, and it was Toronto and LA Gorillas, and Gorillas they struggled with. They had the forfeit win, and Toronto, I don't know, wasn't the toughest team. So for me, I just thought that Paris was going to beat them right off the start. But they looked better than what I thought. Props to them. Like, I think Chris really talked about it. Like, these guys are a hardworking group. The opposite of what we just talked about with OpTic. Like, it just seems like they have the chemistry on point. Alex and GodRx continue to thrive. And impress, I think, everyone. Assault had a much better weekend. Like, if you kind of look at their stats, like, they went to a game 5 with Faze. So like, it just feels like they know this game. I'll give them the props. I like this Rocker team moving forward, and I think at the LA event we'll obviously preview that, but they should get to a semifinal once again.
Well, I gassed Simp for making that like top 10 KD. The only other sub on there was Alex. I think he was like the number 2 sub. I think GodRx was the number 1 flex, I think, when you talk about statistically. Chris and I took them, and I'm just going to be blunt on why I felt okay taking them. Well, one, I picked GodRx to be like breakout player of the year for me. I thought he looked that good at the end of last year that I thought he was going to be insane. And 2, when Joe and I, we got in late, like 2-3 weeks before the season, we started really diving into scrims. The first thing we did was sit down with Chris and go through games. And he was talking to us about teams and breaking stuff down. And one of the first things he said to us was he thought Minnesota had potential to be a top 4 squad. He really liked what he saw from them online. You've heard how I feel about online results. Most of the time, it's going to be pretty similar to LAN. So I just didn't fully trust Paris. Is the other piece of that. Those are really the 2 things. I just think GodRX is nasty, and Chris really kind of hyped them up for me, and that's why I took them. And I think they lived up to the hype without question. They look good.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously agree because I picked them, but to what you just said, like I do remember that, and I think GodRX has been a very good player since World War II. I think he was on, what was it? Was it Ghost Gaming back then?
Yeah.
I don't know. I played against him. I don't know. I played against him, and he went on a crazy streak on Valkyrie Hardpoint. I just remember it. But he has been so good for so long. He's never really got his chance to shine on one of these big name teams. He's always had like players on his team that can do well, but he's never had just like top tier pros that can go with the best, you know? And now watching him play, the way he plays this game, I think this game is really made for him. He plays really, really well. But if you look at this Minnesota team, man, like, I know I'm biased with Asim, but he is so good. He's so impactful on the map. Alex has been so incredible since we met him on Unilad with World War II. Right? Yeah, that was probably like when we met Alex, like in the scene for the most part.
And we were surprised he didn't get on the London roster, right?
Yeah, and like he's been incredible. Asim's been so good so far, and he's like kind of so young. He's got so much to learn. And then you have GodRX playing at the level he's been playing, which has been so good. Like they have a core 3 that is overlooked. And they don't have the simp of the world or like all these like big names currently, but man, these players are talented. And
you also have Assault, who's like he's on point. He's a top AR in the game. So
he just had a bad year. Yeah, he had a bad year.
He had a bad year last year. I think he would say that himself. I don't think he played that well. Probably not to his standards.
MVP back in World War II.
In World War II, yes. Yeah. But just in general, man, like I don't even talk about Assault. Last year, Envy was terrible. Right? They were not a good team. The team with the old world champions of World War II and EG combined with Envy of Huke, everyone's like, they're going to be good. They were terrible. I don't think anyone thought they were going to be that good. That team had Huke, and everyone said Huke needed help. That was like the gimmick in the beginning of the year, if I remember. Justin was playing just as good. Silly was playing just as good as Huke. Like, people overlook him so much where, like, this team is, I don't know. I feel like Minnesota is just so underrated with having such a good core 3. Assault being a good AR so far in this game. You know, he's bouncing back from last year. And then, like, man, like, I feel like you haven't really seen Silly do bad in a long time, but you don't talk about him too much because he's not the Huke of the world. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was playing just as good as Kyler in that Envy world in Black Ops 4. Like, he was the go-to guy. You know what I'm saying? And no one really talked about it, and I feel like that's why this team is just so good. Like, they have a good pace. You have Alex and Asim who are really, really aggressive. You have a great Flex who can be aggressive and slow at the same time. Assault who's in the back of the map with the AR doing what he needs to do. That's exactly what you have to do in this game. And then Justin who's like in the middle of both. You know, like I feel like they have a good team. They work really hard. I think highly of their coaching staff, and I just think right now I've been a fan of them since this games came out. And I just think their mindset, they're really close as a team. I think it's just taking them a long way. And that's why I'm just not surprised to see how well they played us and how good they do. And I think they have a good season ahead of them, honestly.
Yeah, a lot of good points. I agree a lot. I think someone like Alex is going to continue to get better and better. He's proven himself for so long now. Sort of a like shining star for them. GodRX been absolutely amazing, carrying that same sort of performances from the second half of BO4 season. So they have the pieces. They're starting to turn my opinion. I wasn't super sold. I'm not sure. I need to see a couple more reps from them, but they're turning it for me for sure. You look at statistic wise, there's really still he didn't have the best of events here, but it wasn't like too poor. So you expect someone like him to be able to put up a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, numbers, when you got 3 guys almost around a 1.15, someone's going to be.
Yeah. You can't really fault them too much for it. So I'm like right about even on the teeter-totter. If I can get one more really strong showing from them, then the Rocker get my support.
Yeah, they have to take advantage of their group in London or in LA.
Definitely.
Yeah. If they don't get out, then we're just sort of like
oh,
shoot, right? So.
Right. I want to talk about one thing real quick, TeeP, just because I remembered it and I didn't add it to like sort of our rundown for the show. The stats thing. So we saw the comments from some people on the YouTube comments basically saying, hey, I wish these guys would dive a little bit deeper into the stats. We have a lot of stats, and I know we're talking like surface level, just like certain modes and KD, and haven't really dived in deep. I think the main reason is because with just 2 events, there's not a lot of stats yet to consistently talk about stuff. There's just not a lot of data to use yet. I think when we get a couple more tournaments in, it'll be a lot easier to talk about strong maps for certain teams, and we'll have more data to go off. So I think you will see more of that stuff from us. It just seems kind of pointless right now because there's not much to use.
And I think the biggest thing we will like try and pick apart moving forward once we do have a more like stat base to go off of. This is what obviously something that I love to do as a coach. Just I want to pick apart some map picks and vetoes. There's going to be some glaring issues. Honestly, we had our own glaring issues with like the OpTic team too that we were just like so stubborn on as a team that would piss me off too. But like picking apart like certain maps just aren't working. And the fact that some teams, I want to see which teams are being stubborn. Obviously there's the whole reasoning between like strong side for hard points and favorable sides, all that. I get it, but at a certain point, the stats kind of don't lie once you get to a certain point in the season. So yeah, I think that's a good disclaimer. We want to use that stuff more, but like there's only so much to go off of that's relevant right now.
Probably a stat producer too, because that just takes more time. And I know sometimes it's hard, man. Like Joe and I had to fly to LA to record a show. We've got editorial stuff to send in. We basically get back. We have try to get a stream live and then do the show. So that might be something we actually want to talk about. Like someone that can kind of put stuff together for our talking points. But
yeah, maybe something we think about doing moving forward.
Yeah.
No, good point. Let's touch on Paris a little bit. I picked them, man. They let me down. In my predictions, I had London, I had Paris. Can I even pick European teams anymore? They're pissing me off and making my stats look bad on our predictions. But the biggest one, the glaring change, it's Kismet. It was such a poor event for him. I don't know what happened. He looked so good. Well, it's like something went wrong. Like I don't know if it's like a mental thing or really what happened. But you look at what he was able to do, and then you looked at what he did this past tournament. And it's just such a dramatic difference. And I don't want to put all the blame on him, but it just looked weird watching his POV in some of their matches.
Yeah. I'll take that one just because I was a big believer in him. He's a player even last year. I think he had one weekend, man. I can probably go back and find it. Probably while Joe's talking, I'll actually go do that. But he had one really bad weekend last year as well, where he kind of just said, like, honestly, I felt like off. I wasn't too confident. I'm pretty sure this is true. And like, he just wasn't happy with the way he performed and just went back, worked harder, and came back like stronger. I just honestly think like he just had a bad weekend, and I think his team suffered from it. I think he's a really, really big, important piece of that team. I know I always talk about that team. I was a big believer in the beginning of the year. I still am. He's one of those players that needs to do good for that team. Like those guys have really good talent, but they also have some inconsistent talent. Like you've seen Zed before. Zed has been so good at times, and then there's some times where he kind of starts off like where'd he go, And like I think that like Kismet being like their rock is like really important. So I feel like he just had an off weekend. I think him maybe he was unconfident. Maybe something obviously could have went wrong. I don't know too much, but I wouldn't be worried at all if I was a Paris fan though. I really wouldn't. Even I'm pretty sure what would they lose to Minnesota? It was
twice.
Close.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-2
3-1, 3-2. Yeah.
Like I don't know. I think Minnesota's a great team, so I wouldn't be too worried right now. I think obviously if Kismet plays a little bit better, they could obviously win one of those 3-2. Yeah, they had the 3-2 match, Like you don't really know. Right. So I don't know. I feel like they're in a pretty good spot.
I think if anything, like we were maybe thinking they were like a top 4 now with seeing Minnesota. Maybe they're more like a top 6 team. I don't know. They're right there in the mix, man. They're right there in the mix.
I think the one thing for me, like you guys are touching on Kismet, the one person for me when you look at some of these teams is like that flesh player and how important they are. And to me, that's Luka. I think he had a really, really rough weekend. Like this guy was meant to be the star. Like, there was an interview. Yeah, like there was an interview. I don't maybe it was London, but they were just like, yeah, he's our superstar. We let him do what he wants. And it's like, okay, great. Like you have freedom. Like you have to play. Like Denz has been amazing.
Yeah,
like he's been consistent. Like, we can touch on like Kismet and Shocks and Zed, whatever. But like that second guy, the consistent second guy, has to be like Luka to me. Like we see it in the teams that are really, really good. Like you have Arstees for Chicago, you have Celium for Atlanta. Where you at, Luca? Right? Like if you want to compete for top 4, got Rex for Minnesota. That second AR, that second guy who seems like he has more freedom, needs to play better. Like it's just what it is. So for me, maybe it was just an off weekend for Luca and Kismet. Again, I think it sucks because we're just trying to figure out how these teams where they're at, right? And it's like, all right, they did really well at Minnesota launch weekend, and they almost beat Chicago in a semifinal. We're like, that's where I was like, all right, I'm in. Like I'm bought in. So yeah, I mean, maybe just a rough weekend for them, but for me, if there's one person, like you know how we talk about Dylan for London, like Luca has to be that guy for me. Like he's got to be better.
Yeah, really good points. Yeah, we touched on basically every team. I guess the one thing we don't have on here is London. Let me throw up this bracket real quick. I had them making it out. I kind of put my faith in them to make a little bit of a run in the bracket from my prediction side of it. So throwing up the bracket, they do end up losing that knockout match to Florida in a big game 5. And like Wuskin puts up the numbers again, dude. I don't know if you guys saw the tweet as well. The amount of sniper picks that he got in comparison to everyone else. You guys
22
see that
or something like that?
Yeah, it was so absurd.
Next was 8 or something like that. Yeah, it was
just
wild.
like everyone else there. I guess you can point out the weakness in Jerd not making like a super big impact. But the rest, I don't think that's enough of a talking point.
Stats-wise, they're okay.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Like everyone else is just kind of in that average zone. So if you pick out individuals like Dylan
I'm
played
just nervous.
Dylan played better, but not like Dylan. Like you know what I mean? So it's like
they lost to Faze.
Yeah.
So what? You lost to Faze, and then Florida got hot. That's how I view it. Now, do I think? Am I still a little worried about London? Sure, but that's all I think it is. They lost to Faze, which I don't think they're ever going to consistently beat, and we saw how Florida got hot Sunday.
Yeah.
Basically, what I think it boils down to. I guess the only surprising part, I think Joe and I can really speak to it since we commentated the first one, is just like how different those series were. Because they beat Florida like they were 14 times the team they were. And
yeah,
it's crazy.
And then I'm losing to them later, which is I guess the surprising part of it. But
yeah, I'm just nervous for London because it's just like I feel like we continues even like with past top like EU teams, we've always just had this conversation of when is it gonna happen? And I just don't know if it will. I don't know if this is the roster that's going to do it. And is Wuskin going to continue at this level? I don't know. He has never done this for a year straight, right? Like, obviously, what he's doing is fantastic, but is he going to keep it up? I have no idea. What if he has a slow weekend?
And you guys
where are they at?
You guys kind of brought it up. It's like, what if Alex is on this roster?
Yeah, and I don't
know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm nervous. I don't know. I don't know if I can see this team winning right now.
Well, I think the good thing for them is I don't think any of us see them winning a tournament. I don't right now, but do I see them getting to champs? Yeah. So I guess they're good enough that they can afford maybe clicking later in the game. They're getting enough points. They're winning some series. I'm not too worried about them. Like
I'm nervous because Wuskin is putting up crazy stats. We need to highlight it, and they're still not able to like come through. Like Wuskin's nuts, dude.
Yeah.
And they're still like, what if that goes down to a 1.2, like a more, I don't know,
1.1?
Like,
yeah.
You know, like go ahead, Crowder.
No, it was the question for you though. So do you think Wuskin? No, not do you think Wuskin is playing well, but do you think like? I feel like that number lowers when someone else starts to pick it up a little bit more.
It might.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's like,
it's a good
Wuskin's
way to look
gonna
at it.
turn down, and all of a sudden everyone's going to turn down with him. Like, I feel like if we see that number decrease, I feel like it's going to be because one of his players start to do well. You actually might see that number decrease and his team be better.
Rated in scraps, though, this was an improvement from their last.
Oh no, yeah,
right?
Wuskin's still playing well, yeah.
Right.
I don't know. So there's a point where it's like, is he putting his team at a disadvantage with the play style, and that's why his stats are better?
No.
Right.
The one thing that changes it for me is like the S&D side of it. The guy got 20 million sniper picks. That's insane. Like if everyone else on the list was at like less than double digits sniper picks, right? If I remember that tweet correctly.
Yeah, it was.
So like the fact that he's doing that in S&D 2 and then putting up the respawn stats that are so high, like those are the ones that stick out for me. So like, yeah, you're totally right. Like those stats will come down a little bit, but like it's the S&D ones for me. Like the fact that he's able to like put up that many, and it's like, is the sniper hurting them? There's like a lot of talking points there. But
It's almost like the same narrative for me though. Like I think this is what you want from Rated, Scraps, and Jerd. I don't mind this tournament performance from those three. I think it's the same narrative we've been talking about. We have to see the Dylan that we expected.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. Like
this team is scary because of the Dylan.
Because of the Dylan.
Yeah.
Right. Like
I think
you
you
have
look
consistent players. You have players who like they know how they want to play the map, sort of like what Clint was talking about. Like they have a play style, and I think they trust one another. But if Dylan's not competing with the Dylan that we saw, chalk it.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. Like that is the reason why this team is scary, is because when you know Dylan at his final form, it's scary. You know, he's one of the best players in the world. So it's like, I'm just not worried with this team. And this could obviously be a worry down the line. I don't know how long we're gonna have a 4 MP5 meta for this long. It could be the whole game. It could be all year. And you know what I'm saying? This could sound stupid.
5.
It could be 5, or it could be 3 ARs in 2 weeks. You never know with like patches and stuff. So I feel like this team I feel like most teams made rosters having like 2 AR players, one that can kind of flex, but like 2 ARs and then 3 subs. So you know what I'm saying? That's kind of what my team was based on. Like Celium was our second AR. We had Major as our main. Like that's kind of what we did too. So I think this team also benefits a tad bit more. Not saying that Rated play bad at all, because obviously I think Dylan can still play a little bit.
Meta.
Yeah, but I think if the game changes in any kind of way, I think it does help them a little bit, just because even though Rated did not play bad at all, I just feel like the way Rated plays, I feel like it's impactful with an AR. He's been very historically pretty good with one. So I'm not worried. Kind of what Maven said, you know, they haven't won yet. They're still a good team. They have what they need, in my opinion. I really do think they do. I think Dylan is still sitting there waiting to really hit his form, where I wouldn't be too worried. It's not like they're getting dead last. They're going to be in champs if they keep doing their thing like what they're doing. They're keeping it up. It's just now, I think if the meta changes into any more ARs, I think they get a little bit better, which is important for them. And then just in general, I just feel like they still have potential. I don't think they're spiraling downward. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think
for sure
they're like just kind of coasting right now, you know, and I feel like they have what it takes to get it up to the next level. I just think obviously right now, maybe their players have to adjust to the game more. Like they have a lot working with them, in my opinion.
They're a team I trust to get points every weekend, even if it's only 10. Like, even if it's only 10 points, they're a team I trust.
But they're still going to do it. And that goes a long way, because at the end of the year, when champs comes around, you know, like you don't know what the meta is going to be, but they have like just what they need. And I think they have more of a family vibe. I could be wrong. I know the brothers are really close. It seems that way. Like they trust each other, and I think that's going to go a long way with them. If I was a London fan right now, I wouldn't have a worry in the world. Honestly, I really wouldn't. Like I like those guys over there, but just taking myself out of like the competition and just saying, like, if I was just a fan of London, I really wouldn't have a worry in the world.
Unless you're expecting them to win, then I'd probably worry.
As of now, but like that can come down.
I'm worried because I predicted them and they messed it up for me, and now I'm losing. And now
you're messing up your stats.
I know my stats I'm in last place now. Thanks, London. Unbelievable. Alrighty, you guys got anything else?
No, I think we're
good to go. Alrighty,
yeah.
I'm gonna throw up the final points that all these teams earned from the Atlanta tournament. Obviously, you can see the Huntsmen still in that #1 spot. Faze obviously cruising up with the win, got 50 plus. They're at second place right there with 70. Paris Legion with 50. Tied for fourth, we got Mutineers, Rocker, Royal Ravens. #7, we got the Empire with 30. And then the bottom of the barrel, we got Gorillas, Subliners, Surge, and Ultra with 10. And OG LA with a big old goose. That's going to do it for the episode this time. The next episode leading up will be leading into the next tournament. So I'm excited to talk about that stuff. But thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you guys sub up, follow the Hardpoints podcast, and we'll see you next time.